The 1917s, the height of rock and roll's popularity and a time of extravagance and rebellion. Ozzy Osbourne, the ferocious frontman of Black Sabbath, the band that invented heavy metal, and Jimmy Page, the mastermind behind Led Zeppelin's seismic sound, stood at the center of it. Their paths crossed for years in a tense dance of unspoken animosity, rivalry, and respect for one another. However, Page finally spoke up today, and the rock community was rocked by what he had to say about Ozzy. The reality? Fans never thought their connection was what it was. Jimmy and Ozzy were not allies, despite the fact that Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath are frequently grouped together as the founders of heavy rock. The two bands, who are both from England, came into being at about the same time and shocked the music industry with their powerful blues-based sound. I opted for the procedure because I was afraid I would become paralyzed, even though Zeppelin's musicianship was hailed as great. Black Sabbath were frequently written off as archaic, unintentional forerunners of a genre they had no intention of creating. Jimmy was aware of it. Ozzy, however, was constantly aware of Zeppelin's shadow hanging over Black Sabbath. Ozzy was a reckless, self-destructive madman whose reputation frequently eclipsed his musical accomplishments. Page, on the other hand, was the exacting guitarist who meticulously crafted complicated riffs. As Zeppelin rose to godlike stature and sold out stadiums all over the world, while Sabbath struggled with instability and inner torment, their friction only increased. And Ozzy was busy yelling about war pigs and Iron Men, trying to get reviewers to take him seriously, while Page created elegant masterpieces like Stairway to Heaven. By the end of the 1917s, Ozzy's world was falling apart. Due to his extreme drug usage, he was fired from Black Sabbath in 1979, leaving him in a state of desperation, booze, and cocaine. Ozzy's self-destruction was a warning to Jimmy, who had fought his own addictions but kept Zeppelin intact. Then, however, an unforeseen event occurred. Ozzy retreated by clawing. All I can recall is that other people could he remade himself with Blizzard of Oz in 1980 with Sharon Osbourne's guidance, demonstrating that he wasn't merely a reformed addict. As Zeppelin was disintegrating after drummer John Bonham passed away, his career took off. For Jimmy, this was a bitter pill. While Page was left to fend for himself amid the rubble of Led Zeppelin's history and the resentment that boiled beneath the surface, Ozzy, the man he had previously ridiculed, was suddenly packing arenas and establishing a solo career. Ozzy Osbourne has been called out before by Jimmy Page. Due to his infamous feuds with other singers, industry leaders, and even members of his own family, the Prince of Darkness has left a path of devastation and animosity in his wake. Ozzy's dismissal from Black Sabbath was a result of years of simmering animosity, power, and control, not just drugs. The band's leader and inspiration, Tony Iommi, had been more and more irritated with Ozzy's capricious conduct, missed practices, and unpredictably angry outbursts. Although the band had put up with his crazy behavior for years, his drug usage had progressed beyond a personal problem by the late 1970s. The music was being disrupted by it. When Ozzy was finally fired, it was a harsh decision that was not taken lightly. There were no passionate reconciliations or poignant farewells, just a cold, calculating breakup that left Ozzy enraged and resentful. Later, after Iommi had forced him out of the band he helped form, he attacked him, accusing him of being a control freak. Ozzy harbored deep-seated animosity, believing that the individuals he regarded as family had deceived him. He was plagued by the anguish of that separation for years. Their relationship remained tense despite years of attempts at reunion. There was always a noticeable tension between the two whenever they were in the same room, a heavy cloud of unresolved anger hovering over them. The wounds from their breakup never really went away, even if they made an effort to patch things up for the sake of fans and memories. It was always personal to Ozzy. Losing his identity was more significant than losing a band when he was kicked out of Black Sabbath. And the resentment of that betrayal never completely went away, regardless of how successful he became as a solo artist. Sabbath replaced Ozzy with Ronnie James Dio when he was out, which greatly enraged him. Dio was more than just a replacement to Ozzy, he was an intruder, someone taking his position and attempting to reshape a band that had once been everything to him. One could feel the bitterness. Ozzy constantly made fun of Dio's little size, his high-pitched voice, and his theatrical stage persona, which Ozzy thought was pretentious and unnecessarily dramatic. He consistently disparaged Dio's capacity to engage fans in the same manner that he did, dismissing his voice as opera for metalheads. Dio, however, who was renowned for his keen wit and refusal to back down, retaliated equally forcefully. He once said that Ozzy lacked any musical ability at all and accused him of depending only on other people to compose songs, put together albums, and support his career. For years, two men sparred, and their conflicts permeated their interviews, media appearances, and even the opinions of their fan communities. The split between Ozzy and Dio was seen by Sabbath fans as a more serious conflict over the band's identity. Was Black Sabbath a raw, chaotic force of nature under Ozzy, or a sophisticated, powerful machine with Dio at the helm? When both artists ended up singing at the same festivals, the tension reached ridiculous heights. During their sets, each makes subtle, or not so subtle, disregards for the other. Every time Ozzy hit the stage, Dio fans would sing his name while Ozzy fans would jeer at his Sabbath songs from the era. Tony Iommi famously said that working with both singers at different times felt like being stuck between two feuding kingdoms, demonstrating how fierce the rivalry was and how even Black Sabbath members became tired of it. Beneath the insults and bluster, there was a mutual respect that underpinned their public hostility. Ozzy acknowledged years after Dio's death in 2010 that, despite their disagreements, Dio had been one of the best vocalists in rock history. However, their verbal battle became legendary during their lifetimes. A conflict between two enormous egos that further complicated Ozzy's already turbulent career. Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden and Ozzy were at war in the mid-2000s. Dickinson accused Ozzy of being a manufactured product rather than a genuine musician during the 2005 Ozzfest tour, criticizing his use of teleprompters. Dickinson, who was renowned for his incisive remarks and unrestrained behavior, made it apparent that he considered Ozzy to be more of a media figure than a legitimate vocalist. He was relentless in his jabs, casting doubt on Ozzy's legitimacy and even implying that his entire career had been supported more by his entourage than by his own abilities. Never one to take an insult lightly, Sharon Osbourne responded in the most theatrical and public manner imaginable. She planned a complex act of sabotage during Maiden's Ozzfest performance, tossing eggs at the band, turning off the electricity in the middle of the song, and telling the audience to jeer Dickinson. One of the most notorious episodes in metal history, it was a moment of utter mayhem. Supporters were split. While some enjoyed the sheer spectacle of rock star pettiness reaching new heights, others felt it was an unfair attack. That was not the end of the feud. Dickinson stepped up, accusing the Osbournes of transforming the metal scene into a reality show and comparing them to a circus act. For his part, Ozzy mostly kept quiet, maybe because he realized that Dickinson wasn't totally incorrect in certain respects. Their furious verbal battle, which neither side would soon forget, was solidified in rock lore by the entire incident. Even more turbulent has been Aziz's personal life. Despite appearing to be unshakable, his marriage to Sharon has been marred by marital strife, substance misuse, and infidelity. Their decades-long marriage was on the verge of dissolution in 2016 due to his romance with a beautician. He was expelled by Sharon, who publicly humiliated him, only for the two to get back together following months of counseling. However, that was by no means the first scandal to shake their marriage. Their relationship had been strained by Ozzy's numerous infidelity throughout the years, his destructive actions, and even his run-ins with the authorities. There were instances of marital abuse, times when Sharon needed to put some distance between them, and times when divorce was certain, but they repeatedly made amends, their poisonous romance unfolding in the public view like an endless rock opera of mayhem and reconciliation. As they grew up under his enormous shadow, his kids too experienced difficulties. As they struggled to define their own identities and bear the burden of their father's notorious reputation, Jack and Kelly Osbourne have each fought addiction. Their childhood was shown in the immensely popular reality show The Osbournes as an unstable, dysfunctional home where arguments, tantrums, and drug misuse were commonplace. Even fame and wealth couldn't mend the emotional scars that lay beneath the comedy and outlandish pranks. Ozzy's personal turmoil permeated his connections with record companies, past managers, and industry insiders in addition to his close family. He has become one of rock's most erratic personalities due to allegations of financial mismanagement, legal actions, and public outbursts. His ongoing struggles with sobriety have resulted in multiple relapses, which have often caused him to cancel concerts and let fans down. Fans may have been outraged by Jimmy Page's recent disclosures regarding Ozzy, but in reality, they merely validate what has long been suspected. One of rock's most erratic and contentious personalities is Ozzy Osbourne. He has struggled, quarreled, and faltered, but he has also made it through. Ozzy's career was based on chaos, whereas Jimmy's was based on accuracy and meticulous craftsmanship. One is a maniac, the other a composer. Maybe that's why their paths were bound to cross in the first place. Because of his controversies, not in spite of them, Ozzy is nevertheless regarded as a rock legend today. Whether you like him or not, one thing is for sure, he will never be disregarded.